Have you ever walked into a room and felt like every pair of eyes landed on you? Like a tiny stage light had flipped on above your head? You freeze, you smile, you try to tuck your voice away, and every move feels magnified. It's intense. It's uncomfortable. And here's the strangest part. Almost nobody is looking. This feeling has a name. Psychologists call it the spotlight effect, a cognitive bias that makes us believe our actions, appearance, and mistakes are far more noticeable than they really are. It's like wearing an invisible halo that you think lights up everyone's attention, when in reality it's only bright in your own mind. Let's step back for a moment. Imagine you're on a first date. Your palms sweat. You laugh too loudly at a joke. You worry the other person can see the trembling in your hands and read every awkward thought you have. Weeks later, you replay the date in your head, convinced that your nervous laugh was a disaster. But when you call a friend to share the story, they laugh and say, "That sounds normal. I barely remember the small stuff." That's the spotlight effect in action. Your mental stage is overcrowded with details that matter most to you, not to everyone else. The spotlight effect isn't just about embarrassment. It's about how much we care what others think. Think of the small, personal things that kept you awake in bed. The pimple before a big meeting, the email you sent with one typo, the moment you stumbled in a hallway. We inflate the size of these details because they're wrapped in emotion. When something matters to us, our brains cue it as important and feed it into the spotlight. High school is a great example. You probably remember panicking over hair, clothes, or who noticed what at a party. At the time, those things felt monumental. Now, when you see old classmates, the shock is that nobody remembers the outfits or the little humiliations. They remember the people, the feelings, the big gestures. Why? Because everyone else was busy under their own spotlight, worrying about their own tiny catastrophes. This shared nervousness creates an invisible, comforting truth. You're not alone. The person you think is judging you is likely thinking the same anxious thoughts about themselves. Realizing this rewires how we experience moments. What once felt lonely suddenly becomes a shared human habit. The trouble starts when the spotlight effect shifts from harmless anxiety into a hand that steers our decisions. When you overestimate how much attention others pay, your choices change. You avoid asking questions, you skip additions, you decline social invitations. You shrink not because you lack skill, but because you overestimate scrutiny. Consider public speaking. One of the most common fears is the belief that mistakes will be carved into others' memories forever. The spotlight effect intensifies every misstep. A mispronounced word becomes a defining trait for the entire room. But research tells a different story. Classic psychology experiments asked people to wear an embarrassing t-shirt and predicted they'd be noticed by half the room. The reality was far lower. Most people didn't notice. Most were inside their own heads. Why does this cognitive bias exist? Evolution gives us clues. For hunter-gatherer ancestors, standing out could mean the difference between acceptance and exclusion from the group. Reputation mattered. Our brains are still wired to monitor social standing, even though modern life vastly reduces the survival stakes of a single faux pas. So we carry an ancient sensitivity into a world where millions of interactions make individual attention rare. At its worst, the spotlight effect becomes a treadmill of self-scrutiny. You rehearse conversations after they happen, dissecting every sentence, every tone, searching for evidence of judgment. This mental replay fuels anxiety, fuels avoidance, and shapes identity. I'm that awkward person, or I always mess up. Over time, these labels restrict life choices and lower self-esteem. Here's another twist. While you were busy worrying, the other person was probably focused inward too. They might be replaying their own awkward comment, worrying about how they came across, or planning what to say next. Two people, each convinced they're center stage, both missing the fact that attention was diffuse all along. Philosophically, the spotlight effect echoes an ancient paradox. We crave connection and worry about being judged, yet we assume others value us more than they actually do. Marcus Aurelius captured the irony when he observed that we value our own opinion highly yet obsess over the opinions of others. The result is a life narrated by imagined observers. Breaking the spotlight effect isn't about becoming careless. It's about recalibrating perspective. Here are practical steps you can use right away. First, run a reality check with experiments. Remind yourself of the T-shirt study and similar findings. When you suspect everyone noticed something embarrassing, ask, how likely is that? Often, the answer is not very. Turning to evidence, not imagination, deflates the imagined spotlight. Second, reorient your attention outward. Focus on the other person, their comfort and perspective. When you aim to make someone else feel seen, the nervous energy dissipates because your mental resources move away from self-monitoring toward connection. Third, use the 5-day rule. Ask, will this matter in 5 days, 5 months, or 5 years? Most social mishaps dissolve quickly. Only a few moments remain truly significant. This simple time lens reduces the present moment's threat level. Fourth, practice small exposures. Deliberately take tiny risks. Speak up in a meeting, wear the outfit you like, tell a joke that might land awkwardly. These exposures teach your brain that the consequences of being noticed are often milder than feared. Each small success rewires expectation. Fifth, reframe mistakes as data. Instead of seeing errors as proof of personal failure, treat them as information and a chance to learn. Even bungled moments can lead to unexpected human warmth and relatability. Sixth, cultivate compassion for others and yourself. When you remember everyone is navigating private anxieties, it creates space to act with kindness and to respond to your own missteps with gentleness. Let's look closer at the research. In the classic experiment that gave this bias its name, participants were asked to walk into a room wearing a noticeable or embarrassing T-shirt. They predicted that a large portion of the room would notice the shirt. When the researchers counted, far fewer people actually remembered seeing it. Across multiple variations of this experiment with different embarrassing items or behaviors, the pattern repeats. People routinely overestimate how much others attend to them. This bias shows up in relationships too. Think about couples who endlessly replay a small disagreement. One person assumes the other is silently cataloging the fight as proof of incompatibility, while the partner may have moved on within an hour. This mismatch is a hurricane for anxiety because it builds a story in your head about who you are and how you must be perceived. Let's practice a small dialogue to try a reframing trick. If your inner voice says, "They think I'm nervous," add the follow-up line, "Maybe they're just focused on what they need to say next," or try, "Even if they noticed, so what? This feeling will pass." These tiny counterstatements feel small, but repeated, they change how your brain explains social events. Daily exercises to shrink the spotlight. The 2-minute exposure. Once a day, intentionally do something mildly awkward or noticeable on purpose. Tell a slightly silly story to a barista or wear a bold color to a quick errand. Notice the reaction. Most likely, neutral or friendly. The observation journal. At the end of each day, write down one moment you believed people noticed you and what actually happened. Over time, your notes will show the gap between perception and reality. The empathy mirror. When anxiety spikes, try to imagine the other person's inner scene. What are they worried about? What are they planning to do next? This reverses the natural inward tilt of attention. Scripted lines for social situations. In a meeting, "I have one quick thought I want to share." Then share it. At a party, "What brought you here?" Shift focus to another. When embarrassed, "Well, that was awkward. Let's laugh about it." Normalize the moment. Addressing common objections. "But what if I really do stand out?" Sometimes you will be the focus of attention, especially if you're doing something bold or public. That's not always bad. Use this as a chance to practice authenticity. The spotlight effect warns us against overestimating attention in ordinary situations, not against recognizing real visibility when it happens. Isn't caring about others' opinions important? Absolutely. Social feedback matters. The goal is balance. Take constructive feedback that helps you grow, but don't let imagined scrutiny paralyze you. A practical plan for the next 30 days. Week 1, awareness. Keep the observation journal. Each night, write one instance where you felt watched and what the outcome was. Week 2, exposure. Do the 2-minute exposure twice a week. Reflect on how often the world stayed indifferent. Week 3, reframe and share. Start sharing small vulnerabilities with trusted people. Notice the responses. Week 4, integration. Use the empathy mirror daily and pick one brave step toward a goal you had been avoiding because of fear of judgment. Picture 2 scenarios. In the first, Emma walks into a networking event and freezes, convinced everyone notices her stuttering introduction. She stands at the edge and leaves early, missing chance after chance. She labels herself awkward, shrinking professional possibilities. In the second, Raj walks into the same room and remembers the t-shirt study. He decides to ask 3 people about their work and listens earnestly. He stumbles once while introducing himself, laughs it off, and moves on. By the end of the night, Raj has connections Emma missed. Small decisions like that accumulate. Avoidance protects you from the possibility of embarrassment, but it also shelters you from growth, from friendship, from career moves. The spotlight effect is a subtle gatekeeper that often keeps the best parts of life out. A neuroscientific note: your brain's default mode often centers on self-referential thoughts. When this mode dominates, you're more likely to overestimate external attention. Mindfulness and attention training can quiet this default loop. Practices that anchor you in the present, focusing on breath, sensations, or the sound of a conversation, shift attention away from the self and reduce the intensity of the imagined spotlight. There's also a pragmatic communication trick. When you feel watched, try asking one clarifying question to another person. It can be as simple as, "How did that come across?" This will often reveal that they didn't notice the thing you feared, or that they interpreted it kindly. Questions turn assumptions into data. Philosophical reflection. 2 lessons from ancient wisdom can help. First, Stoic thought reminds us to distinguish what we can control, our actions, choices, attitudes, from what we cannot, others' thoughts. Second, Buddhist teachings on self-centeredness point out that suffering is often rooted in the idea of a fixed, central self deserving constant attention. Both traditions converge on a simple practice: reduce the self-centered loop and the perceived center of attention naturally fades. If you treat the spotlight effect as a puzzle rather than a permanent personality trait, you get agency. You can experiment, gather evidence, and alter the story you tell yourself. In the long run, practicing small exposures and keeping a journal is not self-indulgence, it's training. You're teaching your mind a new social reality, one where your presence matters, but not because the world is watching constantly. It matters because you choose your actions with attention and courage. Start tonight. Pick one small thing you've avoided because you thought people would notice. Do it. Observe. Write it down. Most likely, you'll find the reaction far smaller than the anxiety it cost you. And perhaps you'll discover, as many of us do, that when we stop acting like we're on stage, life feels fuller, not emptier. In the next video, we'll break down the illusion of transparency, why you think people can read your mind and what to do about it. If this video helped, like and subscribe and tell us one small thing you'll try this week. See you next time.